how did you start to offload some of the responsibilities that you previously had?
Let's talk about this because I know a lot of working moms out there that struggle with this. And although I talk about this on my podcast, Work Better Podcast, I wanted to share some of the tips that I do as a working mom of 5 kids. And some of you that know me know that I brought my husband home from work for about a year and we still had to deal with this. And that's not to say he didn't help, because he helped a ton, but somebody is responsible for it. Whether you're working or not, it is your responsibility as a parent to make sure the house is eating, especially if you have kids. First off, I would start by saying, what in your ideal scenario would be your meal plan? And when I say meal plan, I don't mean like, what do you want to eat necessarily? I mean, what times a day would you rather eat? Are you a grazer? Like, is your family busy? Do you have sports? Like, what does all that even look like? Like, what times would you ideally want to eat? Do you want to sit down at the table as a family? Like, what does that look like? So paint the picture of perfect first and work backwards. If you're anything like me, I don't like my meals planned out too much ahead because there's a lot of room in my schedule to get a little wonky. Like, for instance, in real estate, sometimes you have showings certain nights, sometimes you need to cover for certain people, or you have sports if you've got kids. My life is insane. You basically need to toss out the window any expectations that you have, so that way you're not disappointed when you come home from work. Once you figure out how you actually want it, then you can kind of work backwards and do what works for you. My family's pretty casual, but I love dinners where we all sit together. However, multiple times a week, my kids are at sports. I might have something. My husband helps coach. We're kind of all over the place. Weekends are a little crazy because we have tournaments, yada, yada. So mostly I focus on easy proteins that I can make. What are the main proteins that my kids are going to get? Where are they going to get their nutrients from? How are we going to get it to them? So we may sit down to a couple formal dinners a night. Otherwise, we might have a smorgasbord of like cucumbers, carrots, apples, crackers, cheese on a platter while we're around the table playing board games. Sometimes it's a packed lunch on my way to a basketball tournament and all my other 5 children are sitting there on the bleachers with me and we're snacking in between games. And for instance, today, if I have work all day and my husband's working and kids are at school, I put some chicken in the crock pot. It's nothing fancy, but I don't have to sit and cook it all day. And the mess is pretty contained. I know many people that have nannies or housekeepers that come to the house, and the ones that are cleaning the sheets and doing all that also meal prep some of the meals. They don't necessarily cook it for them, but they prep it. My ideal way of doing meals has changed throughout the years. And as my kids get older, my ideal way of meals is to have my kids involved because they're more capable than we think. So if there's a super simple recipe, sometimes I give that responsibility to one of my sons. Sometimes they cook meals together. If it's something like tacos, which is a staple in our house, it's like, hey, Em, you're going to brown the meat and you're going to do all that. Cade, you're going to get the lettuce, the tomatoes, the cheese, all on a platter and get it ready for the family. But the key is in the grocery shopping. Now, when I grocery shop, I focus on protein because that's the main course of like all the meals. And it's also when we're on the go, we need protein snacks on the go. So I don't have to think about it. So then when I'm thinking about meals for the week, I just say, hey, what protein do I pull out of the freezer to thaw for the week? I also do frozen vegetables. So those are super simple. They don't go bad. Because if you're anything like me and you always get fresh and then stuff goes crazy and then you don't eat it, you feel bad about throwing anything good and you don't want to worry about wasting. So I personally like frozen vegetables. And even kids can do that. They can literally put meat on a tray, assort the vegetables on the tray, drizzle some olive oil, and just stick that baby in the oven at 425 degrees for 40 minutes. Voila, dinner. I think sometimes we try to make it too complicated on ourselves and we put way too much pressure. I've seen other families do nights where they alternate nights of who's responsible. But again, the key is in the grocery shopping. If you can have the typical staples on hand that you use at all your meals that can be interchangeable, like chicken, ground turkey, ground beef, whatever you want to use for tacos, rice, vegetables, I think you can make pretty simple meals. And sometimes I'm friends with lots of moms and we just send each other our meal plans for the week. And my friends are way better at planning out the meals than I am. So I'm just like, hey, what are you guys doing for dinner this week? Great. Samesies. But again, my kids are okay with meat, cheese, crackers, olives, cucumbers, carrots, you name it. It doesn't have to be complex. So take it easy, day by day, have staples, make it simple on yourself. And don't be afraid to ask, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? Thank you.